Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Blue Bomber Talker. And this episode today is going to be my tier list of Mega Man games from my least favorite video games to my favorite. I'm going to start with the bottom and hopefully try to keep it a secret all the way to the top for the most part. I know I'm already giving a spoiler with what I'm showing on the screen right now, but I was really excited to make this video because I thought to myself for a long time, how many videos can we have on YouTube of Mega Man games ranked? When I ended up realizing that there is no such thing as too much. Also, too, you would be surprised by the lack of Mega Man games ranked from, top 10 lists, cross series, series cross different series. A lot of the times when you have top 10 Mega Man games on YouTube or top 20 Mega Man games on YouTube, usually they confine it to one series. So like Classic Series or X Series or Battle Network Series. But today I wanted to there's very few that are cross series. So I wanted to make a cross series tier list of my favorite Mega Man tier list and go into a brief explanation of each. So, if some people might not be satisfied with the list, they might say, oh wow, you have a lot of games that are in higher tiers and not enough games in lower tiers. Like obviously as you can see right now, there's virtually no games. There is no games in F or D tier. And well, you know what? That's just my opinion. This is a channel called Blue Bomber Talker, which would insinuate to everybody that, hey, I am a Mega Man super fan. This is my favorite video game series of all time. There is a couple of games on this list that are period my favorite video games of all time. And not only this is my favorite video game character, but this is my favorite fictional character of all time. So you're going to see that just in general for me, I am hard pressed to find a bad Mega Man game for myself whatsoever. I can't even put any of these games in D tier. I just love these games so much. So with that being said, let me get started. And my first game on the list is Mega Man Battle and Fighters. I believe that this is a game that was released only in Japan on the Neo Geo Pocket, I think it was. I'm not sure. A lot of other Mega Man fans know a lot more details about the technical side of video gaming, and I don't really know so much about that kind of stuff, so forgive me if there's some things that I'm not as familiar with as far as technicalities, but I think that it was either the Neo Geo or Neo Geo Pocket. I don't know, I've never owned the system, but the game itself, I have it at the bottom tier because obviously I don't think that the game is a bad game, but you'll see at the bottom tiers I really put games that are more on the C tier, the more bottom side of the C tier. I really put games that are more so look like arcade games or are smaller games, like mini games, spin-off games that turn into spin-off mini games that were turned into full-blown self-titled releases. And at the bottom would be Mega Man Battle and Fighters. Is a I don't want to say watered down, but it is a reduced version of Mega Man The Power Battles and Mega Man The Power Fighters. Kind of both games that are wrapped into one. And the graphical quality obviously isn't as good as those games. And it's a fun little game that you can take. It's a fun little Street Fighter style fighter game that is really cool. It's still got an excellent story. It's difficult for me because I don't speak Japanese. Every single time you want to know the story and the cutscenes, I had to look up translated. Even with the new modern release on the Nintendo Switch, I had to look up translated images or videos to gather what the story was talking about. And it is virtually the same story as Mega Man The Power Battles and Mega Man The Power Fighters. And with that, and also too, there is a couple of games on this list. There's 3 games on this list that I actually have played, but I have not played them all the way through. One of these games being the next game that I've only played for like 2 seconds, and I've seen some footage of the next, but I'm ranking it anyways as Rockboard. I believe this game is called Wiley and Wright's Rockboard and something else. I can't remember the rest of it, but it's essentially a Monopoly for Mega Man. It looks entertaining. I've seen some footage of it. It looks entertaining, which is why I kind of put it at the bottom of C tier. One of these days I'll have to play the rest of the game. But it does look entertaining. So that's the only game on the list that I put in here, but because I've played it, but I haven't beat it. I mean, I've barely even played it. I've just really watched footage, but I still put it on here anyways. The next one we have Mega Man Soccer. I put that close to the bottom of C tier because for me personally, the game has a steep difficulty curve. Even when you really get a rhythm for the game and really learn how to play it, and you learn, how to get good at the game is just brutally difficult. A lot of the times for me, the gameplay doesn't really feel like skill earns the win. A lot of the game, and this could be a difficulty skill issue for me, but it seems like the game puts a lot of victory to chance. Eventually, when I did end up getting good at the game, I was able to, secure victories through skill a little bit more, but still there was an element of the game that was up to chance. But with that being said, the visuals are really awesome. I just love the story is quaint, and it's definitely feels like it's just a forced way to put a soccer game as a Mega Man game, but everything about this game just exudes charm, and I really, really like the game a lot. Visually, the graphics are really cool. Like I said, the soundtrack is cool. I like the power-up element of the games to where each character that you can get has their own specific power shot. And I thought that was really cool. And for the most part, until you get to Dr. Wily himself, if you shoot a power-up shot, that's really how you're scoring points, is shooting your power shot and just blowing through the goalie. Really thought that was awesome. The next one we have is Mega Man the Power Fighters, but I'm not going to lie, Mega Man the Power Fighters and Mega Man the Power Battle, I'm putting literally at the same rank because to me, the two games are so synonymous with each other. I can't pick one that's over the other. If I had to maybe choose one over the other, maybe I would actually flip that list. And I would put Mega Man the Power Fighters over the Power Battles, just because I believe the Power Fighters is the game where they reveal that Zero is a creation of Dr. Wily. And at the time that is huge news before it was revealed in Mega Man X4, because I think the Power Fighters was made just before Mega Man X4. That was a huge reveal. That was a huge thing to insinuate, especially when you look at the first 3 X games and you see that kind of building story arc that shows that, in order to save the world, Mega Man X must destroy Zero. And at the end of X3 especially, you end up wondering yourself like, well, why is that? And for it to be kind of answered in an arcade game is really cool. And I put these at the higher end of the tier list, and that's simply for the fact that they are definitely the highest quality Mega Man arcade games, or just fun smaller games. And I had a lot of fun with these when I was in high school. I used to play these games a lot on the Mega Man Anniversary Collection on the GameCube, which in my opinion was a great collection of Mega Man games. And so next one we have, actually this is another game that I have not played myself, and for hardcore Mega Man fans, you would probably guess why this would be a game that I haven't played myself, is because it also as well, like Mega Man Rockboard, Super Adventure Rockman was not released in English. It was only released in Japan. So they did not release it in America. So this game is essentially an anime. I believe people call it an FMV. It's an interactive anime movie with fight scenes. Like You can have boss battles, like first-person shooter style boss battles, but it's all controlled through text. And you can only navigate this game if you can speak Japanese, if you can read Japanese. Now, obviously, there are Mega Man fans out there who had this game in Japanese, who did not speak Japanese, where I hear them on Reddit and they're like, thumbs up if you played this game even though you couldn't understand. I'm like, how did you navigate this game without being able to speak Japanese or read Japanese? That's incredible. So I didn't do that. I just watched the video, the playthrough, the let's play of it, because I don't speak Japanese, and therefore I would have had no way of being able to navigate the complicated menu screens and all of the dialogue to be able to like read and understand the story. And it's a really cool story. You know, it's got a reformed Dr. Wily, and you know, he's doing scientific work with Dr. Light and rock and roll. And one day I think it's like for a 3-year period of time, the world is like slowly being turned into this gradually growing turmoil of like this electromagnetic pulse from the Amazon, from where the ancient Mayan civilization would have been, of a supercomputer device, or a ancient city that archaeologists believe was part of the Mayan civilization from 20,000 years ago. It started releasing this electromagnetic pulse that is slowly but surely corrupting and destroying the robots, and then is also destroying and killing human beings too. And so Roll goes into a comatose, and then Mega Man, Dr. Wily, goes on an expedition to try to find out what's going on. He goes on an archaeological expedition to try to find out what's the cause of it. And Mega Man, when he starts seeing that Roll is put into this coma and all these other robots are slowly but surely frying and they're basically dying, and that humans is going to happen the same thing to them too, he goes on the adventure too, along with Dr. Light's first generation of robot masters: Cutman, Bombman, Elecman, Fireman, Iceman, and Gutsman. And but primarily Cutman works with Mega Man, and they go to try to find out what's going on. And Dr. Wily reveals that it is a supercomputer, an alien supercomputer called Ramoon. And it's a cool storyline. I'm trying not to go into the storylines too much, because if that was the case, I would be making this video for like 3 hours. So I'm going to try to, I'm going to try to consolidate each review. But from a perspective of a video game, this game is so cool from a lore perspective and from a visual perspective. We got a whole Mega Man movie in the form of a game, which we've had, I think, 2 Mega Man movies, I think, or maybe 3. I think there was 2 anime movies for Battle Network, and then there was 1 Mega Man movie for Mega Man Wishing Upon a Star, which I'll touch on that later. Which that movie, for me, that 3-episode movie, is my favorite film depiction of Mega Man ever. But this is maybe a close second. It's awesome. Okay, that's top rank of C tier. And now going down to the bottom rank of D tier. I'm going to go with Mega Man Extreme 1. Mega Man Extreme 1, I have at the bottom of B tier because, and I have some people might be surprised because I've noticed that people rank the Mega Man World games below the Mega Man Extreme games, and I have it the reverse. And that's really just because the Mega Man Extreme games, they didn't really do as much for me for the Mega Man World games as far as giving me diversity from what the original game did, which was obviously Mega Man X, to what the portable Game Boy Color game did. And to be honest with you, the dash feature and how you dash, which is double tapping on the arrow on the D-pad, I didn't like it as much as the X games, which have a designated button, which obviously for the dash feature, which obviously they could do with the Game Boy Color or Game Boy Pocket. But I really feel the difference for myself personally with the games. Yeah, I mean, and obviously you could double tap on the D-pad to dash in the X series also, and X1, X, all of the games. But here being the fact that you can only do a double tap with the D-pad in order to dash, I didn't like that. And also too, I think wall jumping kind of suffered from that. And a lot of the boss rush elements, the boss refights, and then end game content, it kind of lacked for me. But where this game does excel in is the gameplay. Still, the gameplay is really good, and the stories are really good in this game. I love MIDI. I love techno. I believe that's Zane in the background there. Zane and Gimel, I think it is. Thought it was really cool. The games is really, they're really cool. And then with that being said, the second one, Mega Man Xtreme 2, that is going to be on my second tier for B tier. Second rank for B tier. I think that the game is comparable and almost the same rating for me as Mega Man Xtreme, with just Xtreme 2 edging out in the rank department because of storyline. It has all the same awesome elements of the story as Mega Man Xtreme 1, but it just expands to that, and it gives you, I believe the two bad guys are Berkana, and maybe it's also Gimel. I can't remember his Gimel. I can't remember. But those are the two bad guys. When you play through as Mega Man X, you fight, I think you fight Berkana. And then when you play through as Zero, you fight Gimel. And then when you play in extreme mode, you do one of the two of them, I think. And then you just go straight into fighting Sigma. And the Erasure incident and expanding on DNA souls was awesome from a lore perspective. Bringing in Iris was really cool because it gives you more of a context that Zero and Iris knew each other before even Mega Man X4 2, which, kind of at least allows your brain to elaborate on the idea that these aren't just two people who met right away, but they've actually known each other for some time. So that game was really cool. It was awesome. But once again, I think that the thing that maybe for me Xtreme 2 was a little bit worse in Xtreme 1, but not enough to say that it was a worse game, was the fact that you did have to play through it so many times. You had to play through X mission, Zero mission, and just to get the full story. If not to just beat the games and 100% them, just to get the full breadth of the story and what was going on. You had to play and beat the game 3 separate times, and that affects it for me. Okay, moving on to the next game, we have Mega Man X7. And for a lot of people, they may be shocked about this because so many people just feel that this game is so bad and so awful that no matter if it's up against a game like Battle and Fighters or Rockboard or Mega Man Soccer, they would say, no, this game is just such an atrocity. It's at the bottom of everything. But for me, it's not. I think that this game was actually enjoyable because I played this game a lot later on than most people. I only played this game for the first time this year, I believe. Or maybe it was at the end of last year. I can't remember. But Mega Man X7, I found it enjoyable. There was nothing about it's definitely the steepest drop in quality for any Mega Man game, which is why it's really the first Mega Man mainline game that I have on this list, and at the bottom of the list. So it's definitely the worst of all of the mainline Mega Man games released, but it is still really good. I thought it was good. The pacing is slow. The 3D elements of the game is really awkward. The aiming system is very awkward. It's certainly not up to standard from what we've expected with the quality of a Mega Man game. But with that being said, at no point in this game was I thinking to myself that it was so awesome that I didn't want to play it. I thought that Axel was a cool character, and I thought that I think his Commander Red or General Red, I can't remember exactly what his name is, but the whole idea of him being the leader of a vigilante group called Code Red, which makes sense because justice amongst Reploids versus humans, like justice for Mavericks versus people who are just trying to keep the peace, is not really something that the Maverick hunters are truly able to keep under control. And so having this rogue agency who's maybe kind of fed up and thinking that they could do a little bit better, I thought was really cool. Also too, I really enjoyed the end fight with Sigma. That super huge Sigma that's like the size of the Earth itself. I thought that was really fun. There was cool levels. The bosses, for me, the worst element of this game was the bosses. The bosses were way too difficult. They made the life bars way too high just to try to give like an artificial difficulty with the bosses. The boss fights in the game, the actual Mavericks, was not feeling those. So it's a bad game. I guess you could definitely make an argument that it's bad, but I don't think it's as bad as people say. I think it's the worst in the mainline series, but I don't think it's as bad as people say, which is why I give it the rank that it has. It's in B tier. And so for me now, I go to, as you can see, the block of the Mega Man World games. Yes, I'm putting these games above Mega Man X7 and above Mega Man Xtreme 1 and 2. I really enjoyed the Mega Man World games. From what you hear a lot of other Mega Man YouTubers who talk about the World games, they'll basically make it seem like, to me, their opinions are, and it's valid opinions, that Mega Man Worlds 1, 2, 3, and 4 are basically just complete copycat games of Mega Man's 1, 2, 3, and 4 from the NES, the classic NES games. Which, of course, there's elements of them that are like rehashes, but for me, I was going into these games expecting just to play the same games over twice. And for me, I found that all the World games had completely redone levels. I felt like I was playing brand new games, with the exception of fighting the same robot masters in environments that were similar in theme. But the level redesign was redone so well that I found that I felt like I was playing more diversely different levels from the original in the Mega Man World games than I was playing in Mega Man Xtreme 1 and 2. A lot of the levels in Xtreme 1 and 2 kind of in many ways felt like they were more rehashes than the World games. And so for me personally, put Mega Man World 3 at the bottom, just for no real technical reason, other than I found myself, it was my least favorite of the World games. And I think it'll be clear as to why I put World 3 at the bottom and some of the other ones higher. Just you'll hear it in the enthusiasm of my voice as to why I enjoy these games more. I liked Punk. Punk was cool. But of the Mega Man killers, I think that there was other fights that I felt more enjoyable to an extent. But I do like what Punk became in later games, like in the Battle Network series. And Punk is a cool character. And with that being said, I'm moving on to Mega Man World 2. I'm putting it above Mega Man World 3 simply for theme and feel. I just like the environments and I like the music and I like the characters more. And I love the incorporation of Quint. The timeline, like the storyline of Dr. Wily going forward in the time skimmer and bringing back Quint. It has a more developed storyline that I think than Mega Man World 3 that lends to it being more enjoyable. The idea of a Mega Man from the future and a Dr. Wily going to the future and manipulating a rehabilitated Dr. Wily, and just like Dr. Wily has done for so many years in the future, has tried so hard to be so good, and he's rehabilitated. It's kind of like an addict, I would imagine, like who has been rehabilitated for years, and it's kind of like a sad idea, but then they just have like this one moment where they come into contact with maybe the thing that they were addicted to and like a massive amount of quantity of it, and then in that moment they've been sober result, but like they just, that's maybe going too far and talking in this video. This is just a video about games, but that's like a really serious thing to say. But that's essentially what happened to Dr. Wily. He's like this former addict of world addiction who's been clean and sober for so long in the future until he sees his past self, and his past self presents him with this idea that it's just like way too tempting for Dr. Wily in the future to say no to. Like, listen, this time you could really have the world. And Dr. Wily's like, oh man. And so they kidnap Quint and they bring him from the future back to the past to try to conquer the world. And I just really, really enjoyed that element of it. But where the game, I think, suffers and why it's close to the bottom of the Mega Man World tier list is it's too easy. It's so easy. The game, for me, might very well be the easiest Mega Man game of all time. It's laughably easy. I could almost beat this game blindfolded. I don't think I died a single time in the playthrough that I did. It is extremely easy. But very cool. Quint Sakugane, awesome. So now we have the next game, which is ironically the sequel to both Mega Man World 2 and Mega Man and Bass. We have Mega Man and Bass Challenger from the Future for the Wonder Swan. Really enjoyed this game. If I could put it higher, I almost would. It is the black sheep of the Mega Man family. It's such a weird game. When you play this game, it almost feels like it shouldn't even be a Mega Man game. The whole game, the levels all take place in like these weird caves with like this dripping oil from the ceiling. It basically looks like the entire game was all just like variations of stages of the very last level from Mega Man 2, when you're Mega Man and you're going through the Wily Castle and you're going through that little dungeon part before you fight Wily's alien form, and there's all those oil drops that are falling from the ceiling, acid drops falling from the ceiling, and you look like you're going through this icky, gooey cave. The whole game takes place in those kind of environments with these really weird, like almost reminiscent of biological looking robots. And it's very strange, but the story is so charming and explains why the world feels so different in Mega Man and Bass 2 Challenger from the Future, which is that you have the prototype of Quint from the last game from the future, the robot master that the two Wilys created in Quint before they kidnapped Mega Man and they gave him the upgrades. They created a prototype robot to test and see its capabilities. And that robot they called Mega Man Shadow was a prototype. They left it unfinished with the desire to conquer the world, even though Mega Man Shadow did not want to conquer the world. Because as the hardcore Mega Man fans know, that robot masters have a prime directive. They are programmed with a prime directive that they must carry out with every second of their being. However, a robot master can still think and feel the way it wants to. It does not have to enjoy its prime directive in order for it to execute it. And that's exactly what Mega Man Shadow was. It hated its prime directive, but its prime directive compelled Mega Man Shadow to, by any means necessary, conquer the world. And so it itself finds a way to travel back to the past with its own robot masters. They have a specific name. I can't remember what their name is. It's actually not called Robot Masters, I don't think. But in order to conquer the world. And they do. And what you have as a result, and they go to Symphony City. So it's not Mega City or any of the other locations for the previous games. But it's Symphony City. And Symphony City really, to me, feels like the Gotham of the Mega Man world. Everything is deep and dungeonous and cavey with these dark cities. And he's back from the future in order to take over the world. And he's really just wicked and evil. But then you end up realizing as time goes on that Mega Man Bass fight Mega Man Shadow, that he's not. He's secretly this person trapped inside of a body that he doesn't want to be in. And when you fight him and when you destroy him at the end, you feel so sad. It's so sad seeing what this guy had to go through. You almost want to cry for it because he dies in Mega Man's arms with tears filling his eyes. And he's like, I'm so sorry. Just don't let what happened to me happen to you. And maybe I can see a world full of peace as he dies looking up to the stars. It's so sad. And then his cyber elf, ironically enough, his cyber elf leaves his body and goes into cyberspace. You see his cyber elf leave, this soul leave his body and go into cyberspace from his grave. Such a good game. Love this game. And the gameplay is really good. Great game. People don't talk about it enough. Mega Man World 5. People might be surprised to hear that Mega Man World 5 is not at the top of my list for Mega Man World games. For almost everybody across the board who plays the Mega Man World games, they would put Mega Man World 5 at the top. And of course, it is an all original game, all original levels, all original Robot Master, Star Droids in this case, original end boss, another original Mega Man killer, I think it is, Sunstar. Really good game, very great game. Loved everything about this game. I just can't really say anything else besides that it's not my favorite. It is technically the best game, but there's other games in the World Series that I liked more for the atmosphere, just for generally how they made me feel. Really cool game though. I really enjoyed it. And now moving on to Mega Man World 4. Once again, this was another game that for me personally, I just enjoyed. I found myself having a more enjoyable experience with the original story once again, with Dr. Wily wanting to take over the world than Mega Man World 5. I just found it to be a more enjoyable game. I just had more fun playing it. And now people might be shocked to see that only the second mainline game I'm putting at the top of the B tier list, the second lowest mainline Mega Man game in Mega Man X5. This is not me hating on this game, obviously it's at the top of the B tier, but there is one thing that I think that Mega Man YouTubers have said about this game that for me just really sticks, and that's that the game is boring. For me, it's boring compared to other Mega Man games. Sure, it really feels like Mega Man X5 was the first Mega Man game that tried to like open up the gameplay to a more like open world style game. It really feels like there is tons of collectibles, tons of replay value, but it feels like they doubled down on it too much. The fact that with Mega Man X5 and X6 they took away the anime cutscenes, and now you have this game that is heavily reliant on story development and getting into the story, but it's just text box after text box after text box after text box. And the level design is less based on high intensity action, gameplay, and more based off of, collectible hunting. I feel like it suffers for me in that regards. But where that is the case, those cons end and the good parts about Mega Man X5 begin. Killer soundtrack, although it's just not as high octane. That adrenaline rush that is supposed to be what the X series is sacrificed for, this kind of lore expanding, more relaxed, cozy gameplay. And that's even reflected in the soundtrack. Great soundtrack, but there's not a song off of the Mega Man X5 soundtrack that I would rank as one of my favorites of all time, I don't think. And the story of the game, for it being the epic conclusion, what was supposed to be the epic conclusion of the X series, for me falls flat. Like, you have this conflict between X and Zero learning what his true fate is, and the Enigma, the space colony Eurasia crashing into the Earth and killing like 80% of the world's population. You have this apocalyptic event set to the ultimate culmination of the conflict between X and Zero. Like, it really just, to me, it suffers that ultimate penultimate storyline coming to conclusion. It suffers from the fact that this game has text box after text box after text box. I wish I didn't have to read it, and I wish that I could watch it with voice acting and anime cutscenes the way that we could in Mega Man X4. If that was the case, I might have put this game way higher on the list, as there is a Mega Man X game that I have close to the top of S tier for that reason alone, and I'll get to that in a little bit. So let's go on to the bottom of Mega Man, A tier. And I have, to many people's surprise, this is their least favorite Mega Man World game. But Mega Man World 1, Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, is at the bottom of A tier. Such a shocker, I know, but I love this game. This game's soundtrack, first of all, even though it's in black and white, its soundtrack is baller. The difficulty is perfect Mega Man difficulty to me, where you get that intense, extreme, Contra style difficulty with long levels. I love the long levels. The level design on the game, the level patterns, the puzzles is really awesome. And it's so diversely different from me from the very first two Mega Man games. The levels to me did not resemble the level, only in theme, yes, in environment and artwork style, but the actual puzzles that you had to traverse and the difficulties, the challenges and the puzzles was so different from Mega Man 1 and 2. And if there was a game that I would want to play on a portable video game system, then it would be, most out of every single one of the portable Mega Man games, it would probably be Mega Man World 1. And as I'm thinking about this, I realized that I forgot to put Mega Man Maverick Hunter X on this list. I forgot to put it on the list, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say that if I was to put Mega Man Maverick Hunter X on this list, I would go for a low to mid S tier. Very good game, especially because it comes with Mega Man X The Day of Sigma. That alone puts it high in the ranking. So I would say low to mid S tier for Mega Man Maverick Hunter X. But Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge is just a very good game, and the soundtrack is amazing. I like the fact that it has that little bit of slide, like when you play. It adds a different element to the game. There's so much charm to this game. And Anchor, the first of the Mega Man killers. Oh my gosh, Anchor was so cool, and it's probably my favorite of the Mega Man killers, more so than more so than Sunstar, more so than Punk, more so than the other Mega Man killers. I love Anchor. And next, this is actually a surprise to me, is Mega Man X Dive and X Dive Offline. For me, before, just really recently, you would be surprised. I downloaded Mega Man X Dive close to when it first came out. I played it a little bit. I played it with the touchscreen controls, and I played it a little bit. I was like, okay, it's all right, and then I saw that you had to do microtransaction. It was a gacha game through the store. I saw all of the grinding that it would take to upgrade your characters, get new characters, when just buying them or buying the things that you would need to buy in order to get new stuff was just, it seemed like a lot. And it was not holding my attention. I was like, this is not the direction I want to see Mega Man games go in. This is not what I wanted to see the future of Mega Man games to be. Didn't like it. And then I found out about controller support, that you could use controller support to play with the controller. Like, okay, that's a little bit better. Maybe I'll start playing the game. But then there was so much of the game that still seemed like it was done through microtransactions and actually paying for in-game content. And I was just like, oh no, especially since I'm older now too. I have responsibilities. I'm going to be spending my money on things that I need, and I'm not going to be prioritizing financially Mega Man X Dive. I will buy video games for the Mega Man franchise when they just release them as mainline games, but not in the form of microtransactions that are going to sink all of my money, hundreds of dollars, maybe thousands of dollars, into a cell phone game. Didn't want to do it. And then when Mega Man X Dive Offline came out, I actually was I was really, really excited that you could now get all of what was previously buyable content or downloadable content from the game. You could earn them naturally in game. I was really excited. I was like, okay, now I'll start playing this game. And I was much more curious. But then I tried controller support, and not only me, but a lot of people thought that controller support didn't work, because the controller support has a really, really weird way of programming the controller to play. And so I'm literally saying to you, super recently did I start playing this game, and with the Mega Man X Dive Offline, not Mega Man X Dive, I actually find this game to be very, very enjoyable. I love what it does for Mega Man lore. I love I love the fact that you can play all these different Mega Man levels and have this whole cohesive Mega Man story. But you could literally play airport base from Mega Man X4, and you can play through it as Mega Man Volnut from Legends. That's so cool. And it's really awesome. The upgrade system is actually really good now that I'm getting more into how you upgrade different weapons, the cards, the characters, how you get the different, how you get the different characters. It's really, really cool. And there's so many different things that you could tell that the people who made this project are actual genuine Mega Man super fans. The artwork of the game is really cool. I think it's the second best 3D Mega Man game behind, second best looking graphically 3D Mega Man game behind Mega Man 11. I think that they really nailed it, hit the ball out of the park with the graphics in this game and making a 3D Mega Man game look just as good as the old 2D pixel art Mega Man games, because those games look beautiful. This game looked really good, and the soundtracks is really good. You could just tell that the people who made this game were actual fans. So yeah, love this game. Now on to, I believe the third game on this list that I have not played all the way through, Mega Man X Command Mission. I'm putting it above Mega Man X Dive, for the sake that I could tell that it's a really good game, but I've only played this game for about 2 hours, so I'm not even very far into it. But just as of my impressions right now of the game, I'm putting it at this place. It is a Final Fantasy style Mega Man game, and being that I like Mega Man style games more than Final Fantasy style games, it is lower on the list, but it is still an A tier. I can tell that the game has a lot of world building in it. It's got a lot of character building into it, and I could tell that this game is going to go into higher heights, which means that when I finally complete this game one of these days, I will probably put it higher on this list. But as of right now, it's at a low A tier. I think that it's really good. It's got a good soundtrack. It's got a cool story. I think that for me personally, being that this is an alternate timeline version of events that could happen, I prefer the Zero timeline to this, but we'll just keep playing. I don't want to judge it. But where this game is at on my tier list, as far as where I'm at playing it, I'm keeping it here to lower A tier. And now for the fourth game that I have not fully beaten, The Misadventures of Tron Bonne. So far, this game is really cool. It's a lot of fun. I love being the soundtrack is killer. The gameplay is also killer. The gameplay for a 3D third-person shooter Mega Man game is really awesome. The storyline is told in a really charming and clever way. Not the kind of way that the other Legends games or most Mega Man games are told, but the storyline is told in this really, really cool way of like having to pay back a debt that Teasel Bonne got the Bonne family into and basically got kidnapped. It's such a wild game. And like your main objective when you take on missions is it's set up like a traditional Mega Man game where you can pick from any of the levels, and you go into each of the levels, each of these towns, and you basically go and you rob and loot each town. You blow up people's homes and you steal their stuff out of their house, their money, and you're just going, and meanwhile you're being chased by the police by a police officer named Denise. And I just think that that's such a great story, and it's such a fun way. Like the whole game, I can just tell is going to be a comedy fest with a great soundtrack. So I love this game, and I'm putting it above Mega Man X Command Mission and Mega Man X Dive, just simply for the charm and the fun gameplay. Above The Misadventures of Tron Bonne, I have Mega Man ZX Advent. A lot of people I feel like this is actually a 50-50. Some people find that ZX is like their favorite, and some people think that it is so much better than Advent, and some people think that ZX Advent is so much better than ZX, and I find that there's not much in between. There's not many people who are in between who view like ZX Advent and ZX just as enjoyable as one and as the other. And I fall into that category too. I personally think that ZX Advent was not as good as ZX. There was a certain colorful storyline charm that was there in ZX that was missing in Advent, to be honest with you. Where ZX, through the artwork style and through the game design, really tried to nail home to the player that this is a world which has all of the game mechanics of a X/0 game with the technology development, but the actual charm and the visuals of a classic Mega Man game. It's almost like with the Zero series concluding, the Earth kind of went back to the more playful, closer to the playful innocence of the Mega Man era, of the Mega Man Classic era, while still retaining the gameplay and the ability and the technology progression of the X and Zero series. And I love that. And for me, Mega Man ZX Advent actually went backwards with that, back into the more gritty and kind of not dystopian, but almost dystopian feel of the X and Zero series, and kind of, in my opinion, dropped what ZX1 tried to do, which was let the character know, like, yes, we're still in a technological progression of X and Zero. The technology is still advanced, and so therefore the robots are capable of more, and the biometals are capable of more than Classic, but you are in a world that feels like the Classic series. It's a very whimsical and cartoonish world, and that is kind of missing. But there's so many different side quests that you could do in this game, and the gameplay is still so much fun with a really good story, with an excellent story that, in my opinion, continues to build towards the Legends era in a really great way. So I still found myself having a lot of fun, and the various pseudoroids that you can destroy and then gain their copy ability through the X portion of the Biometal ZX, and you can literally become each pseudoroid. And I thought that was really cool, because so far the only other game that I've seen in the Mega Man franchise that allows you to play whole levels as bosses or other characters that you have defeated in the games is Mega Man X Dive. You can play whole levels as various characters from the other games. And in ZX Advent, you can basically play through levels as the bosses that you defeat, because the Biometal ZX can become the different pseudoroids that you beat in the game. You become the different bosses you beat in the game. I thought that was really awesome. And so with that being said, we are going to the next on the list, which is Mega Man Network Transmission. I find that a lot of people hate on this game, and I know exactly why. This game actually has a really weird difficulty curve with the bosses. The bosses are a really weird difficulty curve, and similar to X7, the game physics in the game is kind of slow. It's a little sluggish in the same way that X7 is, but that for me, the game physics was less jarring than X7. I still found myself loving the game physics, and the boss battles weren't, in some ways they were worse than X7, and in some ways they were better. I thought that it was really weird. Like, whenever I had a difficulty with one of the bosses that was just absolutely just destroying you, like I think Gutsman and Needleman were two bosses that, like, just straight up were just tanks, and you would just die. And it was really hard to get a feel for their rhythm and how to defeat them. And for a minute, I was like just looking at the game, like I would just die consistently and be like, I cannot find the pattern of this. Until I realized that the game was trying to encourage you to continue to go through the levels and level up Mega Man.exe. Like, that was one of the big things that I ended up learning, and it did make the game more accessible. But at the start, like, the bosses for me were just like, oh my gosh, these are the hardest bosses maybe in all of the Mega Man games. But the soundtrack in this game is killer. It's awesome. In the background, the big guy in the background obviously is Zero.exe. And I had no clue going into this game with a vanilla playthrough, knowing nothing about the game. I had no clue that there was a Zero.exe or any characters from the X series as net navies. Thought it was really awesome. And the fact that he is kind of like this super virus program in a way that's in like an alternate type of way to how the actual Zero is too in the mainline series was just good writing to me. It was just good writing. The environments in this game, visually, the game is stunning. It's amazing. And I thought that the more open world element of this game and how the game encourages you to go and replay each level and get collectibles and level up was done in a superior way to Mega Man X5. I thought it was more polished. The game is very similar to X5 in the fact that it wants you to traverse and retraverse each world and get all these collectibles, but I think it did it better. And I think it did it better because it is a branch off of the Mega Man Battle Network series. And so I'm giving this like a close to a mid A tier rating. Really enjoyed this game. It's very cool. Great soundtrack. Best soundtrack. Dope. It was really awesome. And then of course we have like the revival of, I believe it was the Live Virus, which that was also really cool from Mega Man Battle Network 1. I believe that this game is an immediate sequel to Battle Network 1. I believe it takes place in between Mega Man Battle Network 1 and 2. Very good game. And now, we have just above Mega Man Network Transmission, we have the first Mega Man Zero. I'm putting this at the bottom of the Zero games and close to the top of A tier. It's not S tier because it does suffer from first game syndrome to an extent. Punishingly hard. When I first played this game, I almost wanted to put it down. I think I did put it down a couple of times just because, like, the first time I played it, I literally could not get past Aztec Falcon, the very first boss in the game. I could not get past Aztec Falcon. I couldn't do it. It is an extremely difficult game, and for what it is, it definitely feels like an introduction to the game. Although the deeper and more that you keep studying the game, there's a lot of lore to unpack. At first, I didn't think there was as much lore to unpack, but there's a lot of lore to unpack. And the end boss being Copy X was really cool. And then when you start doing more research in the game and how CL is essentially like the next closest super genius that we've had to Dr. Light and Dr. Wily, and as like she's this genetically modified human, a part of like this human evolution acceleration program, scientific experiment program, and how she created the world's very first complete true copy of X, which no other scientist has ever been, Reploid or human has ever been able to do. Like Reploids from all 8 of the X games have all been trying to like create another Reploid that is as advanced as X, right? But they've just never been able to do it. They've never been able to copy that unlimited potential, and CL actually did it, which was really cool. Really awesome. And how there's now this war going on between the Resistance and Neo Arcadia and the 4 Guardians that like worship and like follow X and they do his command, although they themselves have their own agendas and conflictions since they are just people too. Really great storyline, and the whole awakening of Zero and Zero like finding out like kind of who he is, like the fact that Zero just kind of like is like this post PTSD weather worn war veteran, but when he gets awakened from like his Sleeping Beauty chamber, he just jumps straight back into that role that he always has been before, which is just like, this person's good, this person's bad, I'm gonna side with the good people and I'm gonna do what I can to protect this person that I believe in. This person, CL, is sweet and they're innocent and they have like these goals, and I'm not the main character of the series, but I'm going to follow this person, CL, because I believe in them. This person needs help with the goal that the wonderful goal that they're trying to create, and this person needs protection, and I'm going to protect this person and just help out where I can. And it's a very selfless Zero, and it's really cool. And now the next game is Mega Man 9. So many people may be very surprised. I've seen a lot of people who have this game at the top of the list for like their favorite Mega Man game of all time. And I don't blame them, since on a technical perspective, this game is perfect. I would actually say that this game is one of the most perfect games. It's got a perfect soundtrack, perfect gameplay, perfect weapons, perfect level design, really awesome, like, and difficult game. Really tough. It's perfect, but this is probably just something that is my own mental setback, which is why I'm putting it at the top of A tier. But my own mental setback is it doesn't give me that nostalgic feeling. For a lot of people it does, and maybe I just need to play it more and play it again. And I feel like kind of pain saying this, but it doesn't give me that same nostalgic feeling that the other Mega Man games do. Yeah, but it's still a very good game, which is why I'm putting it at the top of A tier. A really excellent game. Now, Mega Man X6. I am putting that surprisingly close to the top of A tier. Many people would be very surprised by this. A lot of people will say that this is like the worst Mega Man game of all time, if not the worst video game of all time. And I would have to disagree. There is definitely a problem with this game, being that it has flawed game design. Its difficulty, it feels very cheap. It just feels like you get spammed by nightmare viruses and you get spammed by some generic level design. And there's a lot of elements of this game that just feel like they just threw a lot of stuff at you in order to make the game get difficult. And that is true. And it also suffers from the same problem as X5, which is no anime cutscenes like X4. You just have to read text box after text box. But it wasn't as bad as X5 was as far as the text boxes are concerned. I thought there was maybe less. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it felt like there was less. And the game is higher up for me on the tier list because straight up, it's just more exciting. It's funner to play. It's got a great soundtrack. For me, probably the second or third best soundtrack, or maybe fourth best soundtrack in the Mega Man X series. And the gameplay is so high octane and adrenaline pumping. Like, and the color palettes are beautiful. I like the new characters that it introduces. Gate and High Max are really cool characters. And I liked the Sigma variant, even though Sigma probably should have died by Mega Man X5. You know, Sigma coming back like this one last time, and he's just weather, and he's like one of the easiest bosses in the game, actually. I thought was appropriate as far as the storytelling aspect, and I felt like they shouldn't have brought back Sigma after X6. I think that story-wise, bringing back an X7 and X8, well, really just X7, was a mistake. I thought that he should have been dead in X6, and then X7 should have had maybe just General Red, and then X8 could have just been the same with Lumine the way it was. But I really enjoyed this game. And next we have Mega Man Battle Network 1. Mega Man Battle Network 1 I'm putting at the bottom because of the Battle Network games besides Network Transmission, and the top of the A tier games because this game, for it suffering from first game syndrome, I still really enjoyed this game. I think that the game suffers because it seems to be one of the only games besides Battle Network 4, which I actually didn't mind it when it did this in Battle Network 4 as much. But 2 and 4, I didn't mind it as much when it did in 2 and 4. But it feels like every single time you have to do a new, like, I guess you could say level or the next part of the story, it makes you like run around the world all over again. There's no maps. The game visually is probably the least developed, but the battle system is like S tier, like straight off the bat. They got the battle. This is the best stop and go battle system I've ever seen from any video game. It's better than Final Fantasy to me. It's better than any other stop and go battle system that I've ever seen. The Mega Man Battle Network battle system is amazing, and they nailed it right off the bat, as well as the storyline too. The whole idea of the life virus that Dr. Wily, I think, created, and then you find out at the very first game. I expected this to be like a story element that I find out later in games, but the fact that you find out that Mega Man the whole time was a program created off of the DNA of Lan's stillborn baby brother, and basically Mega Man is like an AI equivalent of what Lan's brother Hub could have become if he was allowed to survive. If not allowed, but if he did survive, is really cool. And it's got a great story. But where this game suffers, and the first two games suffer, is I believe that it has like these quizzes in the game of like real world knowledge that like you would have to be like an expert in like geometry or like just world culture to get these questions. and they're like mandatory in order to beat in order to beat the game. Like you cannot, like, it's so wild. Like they'll ask you like geometry questions, like what is x over z times 8 and the square root of this. And I'm just like, what? Do I have to have a calculator to play this game? Like, if I was playing this game back in like 2000 when it first came out, would I have had to have like use Google? Like Google, I don't think had the capability to answer those questions back in the day. I'm not really so sure if it could answer those questions back in 2000, but it's got these weird things that it does in the game that I think puts it at the bottom of the Mega Man Battle Network games. But it's still a very good game. And out of all games that suffer from first game syndrome of all the various series, I think that this game is one of the tops. Like it did very well for its first game. Really good game. And now with that being said, we're going to move on to the bottom of S tier. Yes, and at the bottom of S tier we have another game which is a lot of people's favorite Mega Man classic game, is Mega Man 3. This game is great. It's fantastic. I loved Gamma, this being like the ultimate super robot that was meant to be, I believe, like I think it was a creation of Dr. Light, but then Dr. Wily stole it or something like that. It was really cool. And how you have the fake out death of Dr. Wily at the end. You're like, oh no, is Dr. Wily dead? And a lot of people have the theory that Dr. Wily actually truly died in this game. Even though I think it's been proven that that's not true. But that every single other version of Wily that you see is actually a robot, even though we know now that that's not true. But yeah, the Robot Masters are really cool. Needle Man, Top Man, Snake Man, Hard Man, Shadow Man, Spark Man, Gemini Man, Magnet Man, all really cool Robot Masters. The two major things that really kind of suffer for me with this game is the fact that the level design, they're all supposed to take place on different planets. So when you take that into consideration, it makes the level design cooler. But I do wish that there was more things other than Snake Man's level that actually fit the theme of each of the Robot Masters. I do wish that I could have seen that in the game, but it's still really cool. And that is actually something that I can get used to, which is taking into consideration that these levels don't fit the Robot Masters because each of these Robot Masters is on different planets. And that's actually really cool. The gameplay is stellar, amazing. Gameplay is really great. I think that the thing that makes me put this game at the bottom of S tiers is really just once you beat all 8 of the Robot Masters, you have to go through these 4 other levels that are rehashes and just basically replay all 4 of the levels and then fight bosses from Mega Man 2. And that for me was really weird, and I didn't like that. I wish that, in all honesty, I wish I could just skip those 4 levels and then just go straight to the Dr. Wily levels. That would have bumped this game up probably a lot higher on my list and put it above other Mega Man classic games. But it didn't do that. And so now I'm going to Mega Man 8. For example, I put Mega Man 8 above Mega Man 3, even though I think that as far as game design, there's a lot of elements of Mega Man 3 that are superior. Including soundtrack, including just level design in general. I think that Mega Man 3 can be superior, but Mega Man 8 doesn't suffer from that same just pacing issue that makes Mega Man 3 screech to a halt that Mega Man 8 does better, in the fact that it doesn't have like those 4 stages that make you replay levels that you've already done. It has some cool game design. It's definitely on the easier side. The artwork is visually stunning. In my personal opinion, this game is still a classic for that reason. The anime cutscenes is awesome. The storyline is awesome with Duo. It's one of the first games, I believe, that really introduces this overarching idea that in Mega Man there is like this idea of the Force. It really like doubles down on that with Justice energy and evil energy, and how Duo is like this mysterious alien robot that comes from a mysterious alien civilization that he doesn't talk about, which battles to balance like the life and like the electromagnetic energies of the universe that are channeled through straight up emotion. Like, it's very, very, like, from a lore perspective, this is a must-have game. And it's got a great, I think, overall story that culminates in Duo basically saying, you know what, Earth has got this, Mega Man's got this. He's fought so many times, he's so brave. I feel like I can focus my attention to other places in the universe, and that Earth will be okay if Mega Man keeps fighting for peace and justice. And we don't ever hear from Duo again, at least in this timeline, until we get to the Battle Network timeline. The Mega Man ball, like the soccer ball, the power ball, like from Mega Man Soccer is included, which is really cool. They do away with Rush Jet, and they bring in Rush Cycle, and they still have Rush Coil, I believe, which was daring, but it works. There's a lot of fun elements of this game. The game is a lot more cozier and easier, as I said before, but it's still really good. And I find the replayability value of this game high. I love replaying this game, which is what brings me to Mega Man X8, which ironically for me personally, this game does not have as much of a high replayability value as Mega Man 8, but where it doesn't, this game is still exceptionally good. I really enjoyed this. I would put this higher, and I did put it higher. It's up there with the first 4 X games as far as quality is concerned. Game physics is great. The bosses are really awesome. The Mavericks are really awesome. The soundtrack is really, really good. I thought that what most people say about this game is true, is that it's an excellent return to form. Some really good levels. Like, I love the Troya base, which is like the training base, the digital training base, which is really, really cool. I loved the idea with Lumine. Lumine was great. Like the ending, like Sigma Lumine stages where you refight Vile, you fight Sigma, and then you fight Lumine after that, was just heart pounding. It was thrilling. Like through and through, this game had all really unique levels from one to the next, and then culminating in an excellent finale. Like this game was top tier for me. I really enjoyed this. But there's other games ahead of it, which is why I have other games after this. And yes, that being one of them is Mega Man 10. Mega Man 10 is everything that Mega Man 9 is for me as far as game quality. The way I said that Mega Man 9 was darn near a perfect game technically, but Mega Man 10 has that nostalgic feeling for me that Mega Man 9 is missing. Certain games play elements that are just so cool, that remind me so much of the classic Mega Man games is there, like Sheepman stage and the ending Wily stages. Just a really, really good game. Yeah, I just really enjoyed this game. Yeah, I just thought it was a really good game. Pump Man was awesome. Just a really good game. I enjoyed it. I would play this over Mega Man X8. I thought that it was a really good game. Solid game design. And now, this might be the biggest blasphemy for a lot of people for the Battle Network series, is putting Mega Man Battle Network 3 only just above Mega Man Battle Network 1. There was an emotional element to the game for me that didn't hit as well for me as other games in the Battle Network series did as far as story wise, and like a lot of people really loved the story of this game, whereas I still love the story of this game, but there's other stories in the Battle Network series that I actually enjoyed more. I thought that the best part of this was Lan finally being able to see his grandfather inside of that program, which I believe was Alpha, which was like the precursor to the internet, I believe. I can't remember. So I feel like I have to play this game again. I feel like, and I felt that when I first played it too, after I first played it, I feel like I have to play it again, but it just didn't hit as much for me as the other later games in the Battle Network series, as you'll see from this list. And I feel like I feel like this game for me deserves another playthrough. But I will say this. This game for me is probably awarded. I award this game with maybe like the top 3 most difficult end bosses in all of Mega Man history. Alpha is such a good boss, like how like Alpha was supposed to be like this precursor to the internet, but like got out of control and it basically started just like taking over everything. Like it itself started consuming everything. And I thought that Alpha was just a difficult boss battle that was so cool. I thought that was so cool. So I will put this at this point. Like, I know that I love the game, but I'm putting it lower S tier because I know it's a great game, but I have to play this again. I have to play this game again. Which brings me to Battle Network 5. I love the story of this game, the return of Dr. Regal, how you has the fake out death in Mega Man Battle Network 4, and then comes back in Battle Network 5, kidnaps your father, kidnaps Dr. Hikari, and you're basically trying to rescue your father the entire game. And you do that with either Colonel or Proto Man, and it has this in-game feature which I think universally everybody who loves the Battle Network series loves this gameplay element, which is the liberation missions. Were so fun. This game was maybe the funnest for gameplay wise, was maybe the funnest of all the Battle Network games. It had just an excellent deck of battle chips, excellent net navies that you had to fight against. Just such a good game. Like, it was really, really awesome. And then the fact that like Dr. Wily like comes back with Dr. Hikari and is like, shame on you. He's basically like reformed kinda, and he's like, shame on you, my son Dr. Regal, and then like puts him in a rehabilitation program, and then they literally like wipe his memory. It's just kind of inhumane, but I guess it's a solution. It was really cool. I really liked this game. It was really, really awesome. And next we have Mega Man X2. Mega Man X2, I feel like people will be so surprised to see this game at the bottom of my S tier list, but I am putting it closer to the bottom of the S tier list because there's something about this game where replayability value is lower to me than most of the other higher tier games in the Mega Man X series. X2 was really, really cool. It's got a killer soundtrack. The drum lines in the soundtrack are amazing. The Mavericks are really, really awesome. The level designs are really, really awesome. I love the more attention to vertical level design, whereas the other games are more have attention to horizontal level design. There's just certain levels in this game, like Wheel Gators level or Bubble Crabs level, which are so vertical like oriented that give like such a feel of like these levels are huge, where you just do these massive dives and descents, or massive climbs like with Flame Stags level, where you're climbing up and out of a volcano, which kind of almost dwarf the scale of levels like Boomer Quanger's level for Mega Man X1. Like the way that it's a vertical tower, like for me, like even though Flame Stag's level maybe is quite as long, like the adrenaline rush that you get from like ascending like this erupting volcano and this fight for your life where you literally die if you don't ascend this volcano, that really wasn't there so much with Boomer Quanger. Like so much of these elements, or like in Bubble Crab's deep sea base, like the fact that there's like this gigantic like catfish or whatever that you have to like fight and you have to track down as you descend deeper and deeper into the ocean is so cool. So it just adds such a depth. Like you really feel like you just dropped to the bottom of the ocean in Bubble Crab stage. Just a very, very cool, and how open Wire Sponge's stage feels. Just a really solid, good game. Awesome game. But with that being said, there's just something about it for me that like I probably replay this game less than other Mega Man X games, but it's still really awesome, which is why I put it in like close to mid S tier. And then we have beating out X2 just by a hair, which is Mega Man Zero 2, which is straight up that the replayability value of this game is just higher to me. And I forgot to touch on X2's having the X Hunters and the story, which is rekindling Zero's parts, and then having that element of the story with Surge's being a reanimated like a shell for Dr. Wily's consciousness, which and how Dr. Wily survives. It has all those interesting story beats, but Zero Two has all those interesting story beats too, with El Piso and the baby elves. It has all those same interesting plot points, but in spades. And quite frankly, I find the replayability value of this game to just be a little bit higher than X2. Like, I really, really enjoyed the gameplay of Mega Man Zero Two. Thought it was really awesome. And then, of course, I think El Piso combines with the baby elves and the end boss. It's just really, really good. And how he had good intentions, but he just kind of took things too far. Really, really awesome game. And now we have, to many people's surprise, Mega Man Battle Network 4, Red Sun and Blue Moon. A lot of people don't like these games. They put them at the bottom of the Battle Network games, but I actually put them close to the top. There was so many fun things about this game. Lan getting kidnapped and thrown in the back of a car and then put in a hotel room and locked inside of a hotel room, and that was his preliminaries for the tournament. Like, what kind of a tournament is that? What kind of legally officiated, like officiated like tournament that's televised? Is it okay to kidnap a child, throw him in the back of a trunk with these thugs, and then like lock him inside of a hotel room and be like, yeah, you got away, that was the preliminaries, woohoo? Like, what? That's so weird. But this game has so much charm to it. Like, I really love the tournament system. A lot of people didn't. I love the tournament system. I thought the tournament system was really, really cool. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that was this the game where you had to first fought Tomahawk Man? I believe that it was. I'm not sure. But all of the different characters, and then fighting their net navies, and then you meet all the different characters, and then going through these crises where you have to like rescue like these different people in these different scenarios, and then fighting the person that you like, the new character that you met in the tournament later on, was really, really cool. I also found that this game's overworld on the net was one of the strongest too. Like, I loved getting to know and like memorizing all of the different net navi worlds. I loved doing that, and I loved collecting the battle chips in this game. I thought that the battle chip deck was one of the best, and I loved the net overworld. And then having the Dr. Regal twist at the end, as well as the constant impending like doom of like this asteroid coming from outer space, and then it turning out to be the Battle Network version of Duo, and Duo Test, like kind of like the final stage of the tournament. It was Duo Test Mega Man .exe, and you get to fight Duo, and it's so cool. I really, really love that. It's one of the highest games for me in the Battle Network series. Loved it. Which brings me to Mega Man 5. Mega Man 5 is... I love this game, although I will admit it's easy. It's very, very easy game. And it is a game that I would recommend for people who have never played Mega Man before to play this game as like a starter game. Because you, especially for today's generation, who may not be so used to the difficulty of the Mega Man series or classic video games, this is a good one to introduce you to, because it lets you get to know the characters. It gets you to know it lets you experience this wonderful world, which for the NES had great graphics, awesome, pretty cool and semi well balanced boss, a robot master difficulty, and a pretty, I guess, an okay balance of weaponry. I do find myself using the weapons not very often, but they're cool weapons. The practicality of the weapons is not very practical, but they are really cool, and I like using, because everything in this game just feels very cool, and I like it for that. Beat is so insanely overpowered in this game, and it's really refreshing and awesome. And then the story of the Darkman stages is really awesome. I love the soundtrack to this game is killer. The artwork style of this game is killer. When you realize that Proto Man has not been the bad guy this whole time, it's typical, but it's awesome. Then you do the Wily stages, and it's really cool.
And then as well too, as I had mentioned before, my favorite Mega Man movie, the Mega Man Wishing Upon a Star, is essentially a compliment to Mega Man 5. So for people, I would recommend this game highly. It's one of my favorite Mega Man classic games, obviously being mid S tier. For people who never played Mega Man before, I recommend playing this game and then maybe watching the Mega Man Wishing Upon a Star movie afterwards, like in as a companion to this game. Like watch those, like do those two together. And now moving on to Mega Man X3. Mega Man X3, for me, I normally would have put this edges out Mega Man 5, but is lower than some of the other Mega Man X games. And actually, to a lot of people's surprise, since a lot of people, and myself included, used to put this game lower. But I actually have a very controversial opinion about Mega Man X3. It is that, for me personally, if you play the SNES version of this game, I would put it way lower on the tier list. But so many problems that this game has, for me, I forgive them a lot when you play the PlayStation version of this game too. The SNES version of Mega Man X3, don't like the soundtrack. The soundtrack sounds really crunchy, and it sounds weird. Didn't like it as much. The PlayStation version of this, though, oh my gosh, the soundtrack sounds amazing. It's game like tracks that were not my favorite before in this game later become some of my favorites in the series because of the quality upgrade with the PlayStation sound chip or whatever you call it. The anime cutscenes also as well. They put full-blown anime cutscenes in this game that add so much character and just straight up life into this game that was never there before with X3. It just improves upon it so much. And then I feel like I can focus and enjoy the levels. The levels are still a bit long, but it makes the levels so much more enjoyable. Yeah, like you have the storyline with Doppler, Dr. Doppler, and Dopplertown was really, really cool. And how he was like this scientist who meant very well. If you read the mangas, Dr. Doppler and Dr. Kane were really, really good friends. One was a Reploid, one was a human, but they were really good friends. And it's very strange that Doppler would have done this and turn on the humans, but then you realize that he was being taken advantage of. It's a very Dr. Cossack. It's like Dr. Cossack, but in the X series. It was really cool. And then, Sigma reveals himself to be a computer program, I think, by the second game, but it becomes even more apparent in Mega Man X3. And I just have this haunting memory of playing Mega Man X3 as a kid and going through that one Sigma stage where you see all of the bodies in the background. And it was like a horror movie for me when I was a kid playing this game. I was like, oh my gosh, look at all those bodies in the background. That was terrifying for me as a kid. Yeah, I mean, it's just a through and through a really, really good game. And then being that Zero isn't fully playable, but you can still play as him, it's just really cool. I just think that the PlayStation quality, the anime cutscenes, and then the different changes that they made to the game bumps it way up. Like, honestly, if it was just the SNES version, I probably would have put it at the top of A tier. But the PlayStation version, it just those simple changes. I feel like this game for me obviously is an example of one of the best examples where listening to me ranking these games, you can obviously tell that me as a Mega Man player, I do focus on the technical side of gameplay a lot, but the story and the visuals of Mega Man is really important to me. And this is probably the best example of a game that gets bumped way up to S tier, not because of gameplay quality, but straight up just because of visuals, story, and music. Love it. All right, next we have Mega Man 11. Mega Man 11, the most recent mainline Mega Man game released. Want to see more. Really, really good game. Hands down the most beautiful looking graphically, like, beautiful looking 3D game that we've ever seen in a Mega Man game. There's other games that I think that actually do have better graphics, but as far as like modern day graphics, this game has the best modern day graphics. It has a really, really good set of Robot Masters, Impact Man, Fuse Man, Acid Man, Tundra Man, Block Man. Really, really good set of Robot Masters with an excellent story. The cutscenes and the voice acting top notch. With Dr. Wily reminiscing on his double gear system and back to his early days with Dr. Light, was, you kind of have some empathy for him. You can kind of understand more so of where Wily is coming from. He's definitely still wrong, but Dr. Light is even like, maybe if I had just been better to you, we could have created we wouldn't have had to have been in this cycle of you having like these mental damage issues. Like, it's true. I think that where this game suffers from is there's a lot of things that have been in previous Mega Man games that didn't make their return. I don't think that Rush Jet is in this game. Proto Man is not here. Bass is not here. Those characters are not there in this game. I wish that they were. There's just other things that have become staples in the Mega Man games that they didn't bring in Mega Man 11. And I kind of wish that they were there. I wanted to see where Proto Man and Bass were. I wanted to see them in this game. I just think that there was some things like that could have been in the game. Other than that, though, it was really, really great. But I will say this. For me personally, this is my personal opinion. I think it's time that we see more Mega Man fully 3D games. Like, I want more 3D games. I want to see a Mega Man classic game in a full-blown, whether it's third-person shooter, first-person shooter, kind of like what some of the Mario games do, which is like hybrid, not 2.5D, but like 3D, but it's still kind of like 2D, but you can move around in a 3D style format. I want to see it happen. I want to see Capcom really take a risk and reinvent the wheel and for us to, and maybe it's a lot to ask for, and maybe it's unrealistic, but I really wish that we could see a 3D Mega Man game that is just considered an all-time classic in the same way that Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time was for the Zelda series and Super Mario 64 was for this Mario series. Like, I want to see a full-blown, realized Mega Man classic game. And even Keiji Inafune said that you would have to completely rework the entire structure of the games, but I think that's fine. I think we need to take a risk. I think we need to be more daring. I think it's time that we really try to reinvent the wheel here and bring Mega Man up to the next generation. And I think that Mega Man 11 didn't quite do that, but it was a great start, and it was really, really a good game. I thought it was really awesome. And now we have Mega Man 2. Some people, I know that this is like Mega Man 9. They put this just at the top of all Mega Man games. Like, this is just the best Mega Man game of all time. But I will admit, like, over time, there's some elements of this game that I think that it's not quite the mythical unicorn that I once thought that it was. I think that other games have been better on the list. I think that other classic games are actually better than this game. I think that this game is still excellent, but it still actually does feel like it's suffering from some first game syndrome elements that other games that are first game syndrome games have suffered from. Some of the level design feels kind of naked. Some things are just broken in the game. Metal Blade is broken, and I think that they're still really charming and really great, which is why I have it so high on S tier. But I feel like there's other classic games that have just done certain things gameplay wise better. But I still think that this game is still one of the all-time great video games of all time. But there's just other games that I enjoy better in the Mega Man franchise, which leads me to a great example of that, which is Mega Man 7. Mega Man 7 is a much more well-balanced game. The replayability element of Mega Man 7 is there. I find myself oftentimes waking up and just wanting to play Mega Man 7. Burst Man stage is amazing. Freeze Man stage is amazing. Spring Man stage is also very fun. Shade Man's theme is incredible. Shade Man's boss fight is incredible too. Otto is extremely charming, and his sense of humor in this game just really, really pops in like a really awesome way. The fact that Proto Man is sprinkled throughout the levels and is really in this game, really for the first time, really feels like he's a real true ally in this game, is really, really awesome. The ending Wily stages are really cool, and the base fight is so difficult in a really awesome way. And Cloudman's stage and Cloudman's boss fight is awesome. And I think that this game was just a win. I think that Mega Man 2, people award Mega Man 2 for having this amazing formula. But yeah, Mega Man 7 for me, it just has that classic formula that is that it actually beats out for me Mega Man 2. I think that it actually does a better job than Mega Man 2 in that regards. And now moving on to Mega Man 03. I feel like I'm in denial about this game. I feel like deep down inside, I hold the X series, and I don't even want to say it, but I have to, the classic series, just in such high regard. Like, they're just all-time classic games to me. And I played the Zero series much more recently for the first time. And the Zero series, all 4 games, were just so good. So good. That this game might be like one of the all-time greatest Mega Man games ever made. But I feel like maybe there's a part of me that's still in denial about it. The story I think was really, really amazing. But as we'll see, there's another story I thought was a little bit better. But the gameplay elements, all the levels in the games were perfect. The weapons, perfect. I mean, literally with this game, it's really close to being perfect. There's like 4 or 5 games in the Mega Man series that I think that really you could just straight up say that they are perfect game design, and this is one of them. I'm still in denial about it because I almost would say, there's a part of me that wants to say that the Zero series is better than the X series, just as a whole when you look at the Zero series. But I'm so nostalgic about the X series that I'm not really willing to give that spot up yet. But as far as like storyline is concerned too, what they were able to pack in to 4 Zero games, it almost seems like they couldn't even do it in 8 X games. These games from 1 to 4 are so good. Just a consistent level of quality that Inti Creates did. Great game. Which is why it's so high in my S tier ranking. Next, though, we have Mega Man 6, which for me, I enjoy probably more than 03 because what 03 does in perfect game design, Mega Man 6 just has purely in charm and artistic style. Sure, the game is easy in the same way that Mega Man 5 is. I would also recommend this game to people who have never played Mega Man games before. I would recommend it. But what this game did for Mega Man, what Zero does for gameplay, this game does just for fun ability. Like, the replayability, I would replay this game 1,000 times over. Like, and that's why I'm ranking it higher than 03. This game, maybe not technically nearly even close to being as good as 03, for me just ranks higher than 03 just because simply of how fun it is. Like, I could revisit Flame Man's level over and over and over again. I could go to Plant Man's level over and over and over again. Blizzard Man has such a such great game. It's such a great game. I could gush over this game endlessly. Nightman's theme just sounds so stoic, you know, like Nightman just has like this sense of honor, like Brienne of Tar from Game of Thrones. Like he just seems so like stoic and so cool. The Mega Man, the Mr. X fake out, which we all knew who he was, but I still found it charming. The ending themes, the soundtracks of this game is so awesome. The ending credits, just from beginning to end, it has such high replayability value for me. Like, as far as, like, if we were to take Mega Man 2, 7, and 6, 2 has high replayability value, but not as much as 7. 7 I will come back to and just play it. I feel like playing it all the time, but I'll play it for like a little bit and then I'll put it down and be like, okay, that was cool to revisit. 6, I'll consistently come back to it and just want to play it from beginning to end and then just beat the whole game all the way through. Such a good game. All right, now, Mega Man 04. For me, as far as technical gameplay quality, this game is maybe just a little bit worse than 03, but so close to almost being a technically perfect game. Besides like things like the Zero Knuckle, which is really awkward. And sure, of course, I think that the Reploid, the Mavericks in this game were a little bit cooler in this game than 03. I think that they had maybe some more unique design qualities to them, like visually speaking. And the element of Craft. Craft was such a cool, it's not, I wouldn't say he is a bad guy, but he's more misguided in a similar way to El Pizo and other Mega Man characters. But he is such a cool kind of vile style boss to come back to and revisit and fight him multiple times throughout this game. Really, really cool. Like Craft and Vent. Oh, and it was Craft and I can't remember what the name of who his love interest was. I can't remember, but she's a human. It's like the very first human and Reploid romance that we've ever seen in a Mega Man game. But it was just really good. But the thing that puts this game so much further over Mega Man 04 is, here I go. I'm the person who likes Mega Man more so for the story than the game, even though it's almost 50-50 for me. Like, I love both of those elements, but I do love the story, which is the ending to the game with falling down and the final fight against Dr. Weil. Is this game just planted flags in my head and has permanent... This game, for the Mega Man games, this is my Roman Empire. This is a game that I think about this game like almost daily, and how good it is just from like a standpoint of game, like it's just storytelling. Like, oh my gosh, it has maybe the best conclusion to any Mega Man series. If you've never played this game, play it and just know that this Zero, although he looks different, is the same Zero from all the way back in Mega Man X1. And everything that he's been through, everything that the world has transformed and gone through, and it just makes you feel so bad for Zero, but makes you feel so good for him that he finally gets his time in the sun and ultimately finds his own form of peace. It's so good. It's so good. Which brings me to Mega Man Legends 1. This game is just the ultimate game as far as charm. And when you stick with the story of these games and the world atmosphere of these games, Mega Man Legends 1 is truly amazing. The fact that you put in this Indiana Jones style world where you are like Indiana Jones treasure hunting for the mother lode, and just knowing that as a Mega Man fan, you know that in the depths of this ocean and all of these tunnels, these mysterious tunnels, is the remains of the archaeological remains of the world that you've played in all these other Mega Man games, which in the timeline exist thousands of years prior. Sure, to me, it's not the shining example of what I would imagine a 3D Mega Man game would be. But with that being said, it's still really awesome. It's so cool. Like, for me, like, I still desire to see, I personally think that Mega Man truly needs to come to 3D in the classic series and the X series. They need 3D titles for those two games. I need to see those. But for what it is, the 3D element of this game works really amazing. And it's really, really great. And I think personally that these games are all-time classics. This game is an all-time classic. And learning when you fight Mega Man Juno in the end, you learn that Mega Man is like this purifier robot, and that the element of the fact that the carbons, that the people of this world are like half robotic, half human. Like they can remove a limb and they can attach a limb robotically, but they can also have children and have a form of DNA that they can procreate and give birth. And Roll is literally a granddaughter to Gramps. She's a granddaughter to Barrel. Like, it's very bizarre. Like the technology of the world that we live in is less advanced but more advanced. And we don't know why Mega Man has like this kind of weird destiny. Like, and he kind of, it shocks him. He doesn't tell anybody else about it, but he knows that he is supposedly like this purifier unit to destroy kind of like the world or destroy people, he thinks, maybe. And he gets to see all these prototype Anthro unit, like experimental like pods, like cages underground where like civilizations like existed underground, and like these Truman Show style like bubbles. So weird. It's so cool. Such a good game. And you really fall in love with the world. It is charmed to the end. And for as much as that is the case with Legends, for me that's the case with ZX. This is a flawed game, I know. It sucks because they don't really have a proper map system and you get lost. But if there was a game that I would love to be lost in, it's this one. That's the best best way I could put how I feel about Mega Man ZX. Like if you get lost in the game, right? You get lost and it's frustrating. But if there was a video game that I would want to be frustrated in, it's this one. The soundtrack, amazing. I love the fact that it feels game physics wise. I said this before, that I'm playing a Mega Man X game, but it feels like I'm in a Mega Man classic world. Deep sea meditation, and like when you go, the deep sea area is awesome. The highway, the fact that like there's a whole section of this game that looks like the original highway intro stage to Mega Man X, but it's like this new revitalized and fun world version. It's not as dystopian feeling as the Mega Man X1 highway stage. So cool. The story is also really, really cool with biometals, and now like the cybernetic aspect of human beings has advanced to the point where there is certain human beings that can acquire biometals, and the playing field is more so leveled. Like there's a sense of peace, not through politics, but more so through ability. And that peace is more so the case because the energy crisis has been solved, and humans are basically really close to being on the same level power-wise as Reploids. Like, we no longer live in the age where a Reploid or a Robot Master is like a demigod next to a pitiful little insectoid human. Like, peace has been accomplished more so because both sides have a big gun, kind of. And we get to live in this where the CL system was successful, and we have the new energy system and this brand new world that is kind of going backwards to a more utopian society like the one that Dr. Light originally envisioned for the world in the classic series. And I love that. I loved exploring this with the fantastic animate cutscenes and fantastic gameplay and fantastic soundtrack. Great game. And now we have the next game, which is Mega Man 4. Now, when I talked about Mega Man games that I enjoyed better than Mega Man 2, Mega Man 2 is considered like the golden unicorn of the Mega Man Classic series. I actually think that Mega Man 4 does everything that Mega Man 2 does, but maybe better in certain ways. Mega Man 2 maybe has a little bit more going for it for the nostalgia factor and like artistically to an extent. But there's so many things about Mega Man 4 that are awesome. I love Pharaoh Man's level. Pharaoh Man himself is just a boss design. Ring Man's level and soundtrack is amazing. It's kind of corny, but it's cool. He's rings, but it's cool. Skull Man stage is dope, and Skull Man is a baller design. Toad Man technically is weak, but Toad Man is still dorky and awesome, and I love him. And the level is still really cool too. Drill Man is a really cool robot master too. I love his design. And there's just so much to love about this game. And a lot of people, I know, people complain initially, and even when I was a kid, I kind of thought that the end game, Dr. Cossack stage / Dr. Wily stage just kind of felt like it went on and on. But over time, I actually love the length. It's got perfect length. It does everything that Mega Man 3 tried to do, which is extending the length, but it does it in a way more balanced way. And then, yeah, I just thought that this was a really, really solid, good game. I love Dr. Cossack. I love Kalinka. Like, the kind of romance that is insinuated between Kalinka and Mega Man is something that if there ever was a show, I would like to see that built upon more. Okay, yeah, but I just thought that it was great. I thought formulaically it was better than Mega Man 2. I thought it had a great formula. And now we have a Mega Man Battle Network 6, Cybeast Falzar and Cybeast Gregar. And I really, really liked this game. I loved Circus Man, and I loved all the other net navies that you had to go through and fight. That center, like, kind of on the net, in the net, like that big gaping hole, which the ancient Cybeast kind of came out of. Like, they had that duel and they crashed there, was really, really awesome. I thought that all of the missions were really, really cool, and I thought that once again this game had one of the best roster of battle chips, as well as net navi battle chips that you could find. I thought that they were really, really cool. And I thought personally that the story to this game really just, there was the icing on top of the cake as far as the story goes. If I were to end Battle Network, I would have ended it exactly the way that they did, and seeing everybody be like this great happy family, and see Mega Man and all of his friends grow up together and like kind of grow old together, and now even like Lan has a kid, and like Mega Man gets to live in a copy bot in the real world, and like Lan and Hub get to be like actual brothers. Like, Lan has a son and Hub is an uncle, you know, and like they get to like live a real life. And I thought that was really, really cool. I thought that a lot of the elements with Barrel now being like the bad guy was really cool, and how like Barrel, and then I can't remember the teacher's name, but like your 6th grade teacher like has like a history with Barrel, and how he feels like indebted to him, which is why he kind of like joined like the bad guys for a minute. I thought that it was really, really cool, and like the whole culmination with like going to like the expo, the expo at the end of the game, and how like they ended up using the copy bots and like terrorizing the town. I just thought that it was a really good game. I thought it was at one of the top of the list for me for the Mega Man Battle Network series. Obviously you can tell with these games that I'm still pretty new to Battle Network series, so these games are so big, like I'm gonna have to play this game a bunch more, but I thought that this game was really, really cool. I thought that Cybeast Falzar and Cybeast Gregar, not, you know, they maybe were not as difficult of fights as Duo or Alpha, but they were still really cool. And with that being said, now we have Mega Man Legends 2. Before I played Mega Man Legends 2, I did not think that this was going to be as good as Mega Man Legends 1. I heard a lot of people said that there was an element of the whimsical and nostalgia feeling that was kind of gone with Legends 2, but playing it, I don't see what people are talking about. I thought this game was amazing. Right off the bat, the whole tone of the game with the storm and the Eye of the Storm at like I think it's like Area 0 or something like that, or where the mother lode is said to be, and then like you kind of like you land on Yasyanki Island, which is like, I would imagine kind of looks like what would have been Russia, but like the mountaintops of Russia. Like it just immediately puts you in this world where everybody feels like pioneer prospectors. It feels like you're in like the 1800s or whatever, when mankind is like going through like this great renaissance, but it's carbons. Like carbons are going through this great technological renaissance, and there's this great sense of adventure where people want to know where they come from, and people want technology to expand, and people want to know more about the world that they live in. And that element of it is just so cool. Every single one of the mines in each of the islands is really, really cool. Like Yasyanki Island, those the I think the 2 mines that are there are really, really awesome. The interactions, like, and the kind of fights that you have with the Bond family, and then as well as Glide, the fighting all the different ducks, and then you have to go to like Glide base on that one island where you find those 2 little illiterate twins. And then the on that same island, I don't know, it was a different island for that one. But the Glide base thing was ridiculous. It was really, really cool. And then you rescue like the 2 twins' older sister, and then she teaches them how to like read and write. It's so weird. And then that one island where you fight the two like mercenaries. The one dude who's like, I can't remember his name, is like Steel or something like that, but he looks like Nightman. And then the other guy who was like a ninja who keeps disappearing and reappearing. It was really, really cool. And then when you leave, you go and you meet the mayor of the island. And oh my gosh, for the same reason I can't stand X Dive, what it does, which is thirst trapping, like those characters, that impossibly hard test where you have to be like a Jeopardy genius to get the quizzes. Like you have to do Google for that. You would be playing that game for months to like memorize all of the answers to that mini game. But like it's so ridiculous how hard that quiz is. Yeah, but it's still cool. I also like the fact that the shining laser is more accessible in this game. Like you don't have to like get I never got the shining laser in Legends 1, but I got the shining laser 2, and I like how much more accessible it was. And unlike in Mega Man Legends 1, I like the end boss in Legends 2 more. It was more difficult in a better way than Mega Man Legends 1. Mega Man Legends 2 was great. Mega Man Legends 2, I just thought that it was so cool. And then when you go and you go to Elysium and you find out about the Master, and there's so much like things like the Master says that the Master's going to go live with its true mother, and like goes to live with the mother elf, and you realize that the Master lived in like this freaking like Ziploc bag, like this, he's like the last true human being, and how he lives in Elysium in this like Ziploc bag, like this ultra super purified like environment where there's like no disease, there's no death. Like this dude like basically lost his humanity, but like lived for thousands of years. And it's such a good story. I don't want to go into the whole storyline, but it's such a good story. And like it's such a trip to see Elysium and how like human beings evolved to live in like this vacuum sealed saran wrap world, and lost their humanity and created the Earth on Terra with the carbons, and kind of created this sick twisted experiment that they shouldn't have done to begin with, but just simply because they were too bored to keep on living and too afraid to die. So they sealed themselves up like Sleeping Beauty in a space station, or I think maybe it was below the Earth, or I think it was a space station. Oh wait, no, that's right. They did like they had their DNA programmed so that way they could like clone themselves and repopulate the Earth. Like super wild. Like it's such a good story, and it's such a good game. I loved it. And then we have Mega Man Battle Network 2. That's right. Mega Man Battle Network 2 is my personal favorite Battle Network game. I thought this game was so good.
And mostly the reason why that is because the overworld I thought was really solid. I liked getting to know the overworld way more than Battle Network 1 and way more than Battle Network 3. The overworld is great. You had to like with every single like level that you kept like with the story as the storyline progressed, the game kept asking you to like rerun through the whole world, but I didn't mind doing that. So it's similar to ZX1 where it's frustrating, like the level design, like it's frustrating, and the fact that you have to like memorize all these different things and you have to backtrack and then re-backtrack and then go back over here and then go back over here and do this. Mega Man Battle Network 2 does that, but if there was a game that I would like to be frustrated in, it's this one. And I love the overworld so much with the net that I already like memorized it, so it wasn't a big deal for me to traverse back and go through like, you know, everything. Like I really enjoyed doing it. The soundtrack was really awesome. The battle chip selection for it being so early on was really good. Gameplay wise, it was just such a step up from Battle Network 1. And then where this game really shines to me is, for me personally, it has the best story. Sean Obihiro's story is so potent, and its lessons are so potent to learn for like the real world, because there really is people like that in the real world. There's people like that who have horrible lives. They lived horrible lives with horrible circumstances, and in their real world lives, they don't have good people that they can talk to. They're not surrounded by good people. They don't feel loved by the world. They don't feel loved socially, politically by the world. They feel like the world has rejected their demographic. And so therefore, they find a home on these message boards on the internet with other people who are mentally unhealthy, just like them. And they formulate these groups, and really dangerous things can happen in these groups. And I thought that the character of Sean Obihiro, which was using all of these, I believe that what it was he formulated the group Gospel, like this online, on the online message boards. And I believe that he used like Gospel, like the actual program Gospel was like this super mega Navi that was, or like this mega virus that was accumulated from all these different like bug frag datas. So all these different bugs that like all accumulated into like this super, I can't remember, I have to like go through it again because I've only played these games pretty recently, so the story is very vast and the games are very big, so I have to go through them again. But the fact that like he created this disguise and like wanted to destroy and kill the world and have the world be replaced by what he viewed as the real world, like the internet, because he only felt good on the internet and with his friends on the internet. He wanted to kill the world who rejected him and then make the internet like the new real world and bring like the digital world into the real world and turn the real world and that's actually what he does. Like he starts creating like these tears in the space-time continuum. I thought it was so cool. Like the internet world, like the electromagnetic frequency that the internet gives off, like expanded so much that it started actually destroying the real world and you could see the internet visibly. That was so cool. So yeah, this game tops, and like replayability wise, I could probably play like this game. I could play all of them. The replayability, they're all about equal, but story, like the story in this game was so strong, and it still sticks with me as being one of the best stories in all of Mega Man history. And now we get to the top 4 games. I'm going to try my best to hide these, but we're going to go for this one so I doesn't give it away. Now, people will be so surprised by this, but Mega Man 1 is my 4th favorite Mega Man game. I personally think that sure, this game suffers from first game syndrome, but I have another game that's coming up here in a second that I feel for the same way about this game as I do that game as I do this game. I feel like we as Mega Man fans critique difficulty level and the kind of jankiness. Like most Mega Man fans are really also classic video game fans too. We love retro games. And I don't understand why we reward and we applaud games like Contra or Contra 3 The Alien Wars or Battletoads or or all of these kind of games. I don't understand why we award or ghouls and ghosts or ghosts and goblins, I think it is, and we reward those games for their difficulty. But when Mega Man has that same type of difficulty curve, we reject it. I actually like the replayability value of Mega Man 1 almost more than Mega Man 2. I love Mega Man 1. It's one of my favorites of the classic series. All 6 of the Robot Masters all just have their own, maybe the most distinct identity. So many classic, iconic Robot Masters amidst this list: Cutman, Gutsman, and Elecman. Iceman's also iconic. It's just so cool, and I love these games. Gutsman's level is probably the most jankety, but once you get it down, you got it down. And then Mega Man 1, the boss refights is done arguably the best out of every single Mega Man game besides Mega Man X. Because if we remember, Mega Man X does the boss refights throughout the 3 Sigma Palace stages. And it actually incorporates the refights into the stages, so it actually builds upon the difficulty of the Sigma stages. It's the same thing with Mega Man 1. They reincorporate the boss fights in with the first Wily stages. Not only to mention that, but if you get into the story of Mega Man 1, it's amazing to me how much of this really advanced, depthful story was there from the very beginning. It really is. And we have the fight Mega Man for Everlasting Peace at the end credits. And the fact that Mega Man 1's credit theme song ends in the same way as Mega Man 2's theme starts is dope. I just love this game. It's a classic. Mega Man 1 is a classic for me. And now we have, for me, the third best game, Mega Man X. It's just a perfect game. I don't even feel like I have to say much else besides that. Mega Man X is a perfect game. You already know what it is. Boomer Quanger is a perfect boss. You know, Chill Penguin is iconic. Sting Chameleon, difficult, but when you have his weakness, it feels so good to cheese him when you have his weakness. The levels are great. The Mavericks are great. There's not a single bad thing that you can really say about this game. It's got the perfect learning curve. You've already played this game 1,000 times. I don't need to go into why this game is great. The learning curve is great. The fact that this game teaches you by just playing the game and not giving you a tutorial is so great. It's just a perfect game. Don't know what else to say about it. It's got one of the best replayability factors of any Mega Man game too. I can play this game and beat it 4 times in a day and be fine. Such a great game. And now, for the most surprising one on this entire list that people would be surprised about, my second favorite Mega Man game of all time, and my favorite of the classic series, Mega Man and Bass, but specifically the one for the SNES. Mega Man and Bass. This, just like what was it? It was Mega Man 1 and some other games too, which has the same factor of difficulty that I feel that we as Mega Man fans, I find it so bizarre that we complain about. A lot of Mega Man fans love retro games, and we love Contra 3 The Alien Wars, where you can play Contra 3 and get all the way to the second to last level of the game, and if you died 3 times, the game starts all the way over. But we reward those games for doing that, but we punish Mega Man and Bass for doing that. And it doesn't even do it as bad as certain games like Ghouls and Ghosts or Ghosts and Goblins and Contra 3 The Alien Wars. The King stages I thought was really great because you can game over on the 3rd King stage and then have to start all the way over again. But I love the fact that Keiji Inafune and the team at Capcom was so bold as to basically put a full-blown Contra game at the end of what already was a great game. And to be honest with you, the whole time when playing the King stages, I never felt so overwhelmed. I honestly felt like everything that I was failing at was just a matter of something that I had to work on and then just get better and come back to and try to beat it. Like, it felt like a genuine challenge. None of the challenges in this game felt cheap. I felt that every issue in this game was a skill issue. And also that, not only that, but the skill issue was as such that it was still entertaining. I never got discouraged and was like, this is way too hard, I don't even want to play this. Never. Like, the difficulty was always entertaining throughout. And with that being said, there's so much about this game that you can feel that Capcom really struck home with this game, that it felt like they were trying to accomplish with Mega Man 7 and 8, but they got it right with Mega Man and Bass. You could tell that Capcom wanted to break away and try something different with the typical main 8 boss formula of Mega Man 1 through 6 that they tried to do with Mega Man 7 and 8, but felt pretty boxed in. When you had Mega Man 7 and 8, which had 4 bosses to start off with, and then when you beat those 4 bosses, you had to fight another 4 bosses, it felt like, for me, it kind of took something away from the classic formula of Mega Man by not allowing you to pick whatever you wanted to do. And Mega Man and Bass, they took a different formula. They also had a Mega Man and Bass 2 Challenger from the future, but they did that, and they did it so well, and they did it first with this game, and they did it so well with this game. You have a choice to fight 3 bosses, and depending on which one that you beat, it would either open up 2 more bosses in a tree branch style tournament style, or 1 more boss, which was 3 bosses. If you beat that boss, it opened up 3 bosses. And with that being said, with that tree branch style, whenever you defeated a boss, it was really truly a mystery as to who that weapon was going to work on next. So for example, you could beat Burner Man, which you could beat Cold Man, right? And if you've never played this game before, you didn't know if Cold Man's weapon was going to work on Burner Man, if it was going to work on Magic Man. You didn't know. When you beat Cold Man and then those 2 other branches came up, well, it's like so head scratching, because now, like, with those 2 other branches coming up and then the 2 branches already existing, it's like, well, Cold Man's weapon could work on any of these other 4 bosses. And then let's say that, like, you fought, a different Robot Master, and then that Cold Man's weapon didn't work on that Robot Master, but you beat him with the Buster. And then all of a sudden, 2 other branches popped up. Well, now there's 6 branches there's like 6 or 5, whatever the math is for that now you have to defeat. And that kind of tree branch style was so cool. It almost is better than the classic 8 Robot Master available from the Jump formula as the classic 1 through 6 games. So amazing. And then this game does with the collectibles in this game, which as well in Mega Man and Bass as I feel that Mega Man Legends series does, Mega Man Battle Network series does, and Mega Man Zero series does. That's a bold statement. I feel like there's some games like Mega Man ZX Advent, Mega Man X5, Mega Man X6, where the collectible, like 100%ing the game, and how they put all these collectibles and power-ups scattered throughout the levels, and like you have to, it's like an open world style game where you have to collect them all, gotta catch them all, where those weren't done as good. But Battle Network did it really well. 0, 3, and 4, I believe, did it really well with the disc system. Mega Man and Bass started with the disc system, and Mega Man and Bass was the inspiration for 0, 3, and 4, which is the collectibles that you can get throughout the game that gives you an encyclopedia inside the game. That started with Mega Man and Bass. You have 100 CD-ROMs that are intricately scattered throughout the levels that make the replayability of the levels so fun to do. It makes you want to play and replay and replay and replay the games just to no end, because it's so fun to get all the collectibles.
And when you finally get all 100, you have a full encyclopedia. Granted, it's kind of kiddish, but you have an encyclopedia inside of the game. And the whole storyline with King, as you can tell, I can just gush about this game. King's storyline, that he's supposed to be like the king of the robots, is just really cool. I mean, love it. Love what they did with Mega Man. Love what they did with Base. Love what they did with Proto Man. Love what they did with all the Robot Masters. Love what they did with the Robot Museum. Love what they did with King. Love what they did with Dr. Wily again. Such a good game. My favorite classic game, and my second favorite game behind Mega Man X4. Yes, that's right. This is the top S tier game, Mega Man X4. This game is not only my favorite Mega Man X game, not only my favorite Mega Man game, but it is my favorite video game of all time. For me personally, this game, there's not an imperfection in this game. To me, this game is better than Zelda Ocarina of Time. This game is better than Super Mario Bros. 64. This game is better, just pick a game, any modern game too. This game is the greatest game ever made to me. Even though it's not 3D, it's 32-bit perfection. 32-bit works of art. This game's graphics are beautiful. The intricacies and the details and the way that the artwork makes, from a lore perspective, makes everything come to life is incredible. I feel like I would like model kits of every single character in this game. Mechanaloid or Reploid. Everybody. So cool. Every character in this game is great. I love Iris's character. Iris and Zero's romance is great. Zero and Colonel's rivalry is great. The way Colonel feels about the Maverick Hunters and about the humans, about how he feels that Reploid's rights have been squandered, is great. And he's right, because Reploids are held to a different standard. The way that General does not want to betray the humans, but he's tired of the humans, and he's kind of in denial about that until he decides that, yeah, I want to do a breakaway civilization. I want to make a breakaway civilization, and I want to be able to live under a Reploid-ruled government for us, no interaction with the humans whatsoever. I don't want to hate the humans, but I just want to be able to live. I just want to be able to have our Reploid pride, have Reploid civilization, and live amidst ourselves so we can thrive and have our own culture and not be held to the standards of the oppressive human government. Double is great. Oh my gosh, him being an agent of Sigma, and he's so sweet and innocent. I was ready, like, I love Double in his, at the bottom left corner of the picture, I love Double as like a hunter aid, like as like a navigation guide. He was great. Like, he could have been the new Otto and I would have been fine. But the fact that he is like the culmination of everything that scares Mega Man X about the world that they live in, about like what Maverick, what Reploids are capable of with their freedom of AI independent thought, and like why humans and Reploids have to fight in the first place. Why does war have to happen? And here you have Double as like the culmination of all of that, which is literally that he's just a Reploid who's a straight psychopath. He doesn't really have any reason to be doing any of this, besides that he's a psychopathic murderer. He's a killer. And that's got to be really scary for X to face down. Like, why must Reploids be this way? And then you see this person who just like, at the end of the day, has got to make X just like scratch his head. Like, why do Reploids turn out this way? Like, why are there Reploids who even want to hurt people in general? Why is there, it's like the same thing that when you see like the news, these psychopathic people, why do people like that exist? Why do Reploids like Double exist? Sigma being literally like the Palpatine of this entire game. Better than any other game of Dr. Wily in the classic series or Sigma in the X series. Sigma is the mastermind of this game. He pits everybody up against each other. A lot of people die.
a lot of people die. A lot of people who you wish that didn't have to die in this game die. And Zero is stricken by this. He's plagued with dreams where he's learning about his past and finally learning where he comes from, and it scares him. And in this game, for the first time, you really feel like Zero doesn't have a past, present, or future where he feels like he can find an actual home for his heart. It's so sad. You realize that the more Zero starts learning about his past, the more he doesn't like what he sees. The more that Zero looks at his present, the more you realize that he is going to lose some things that he cares deeply about, and in this case, Iris. And when the events of this game finish out, you realize that Zero is going to shell up in the future, and he's not going to like his future from this point on. Like, his future, he will continue to fight for good and justice, and he will continue to have X, his brother, there with him, but the future is forever changed for him at this game. And he feels so bad for Zero because it's not a past, present, or future that Zero you feel so bad. You're like, wow. If you ever have a character, you're just like, wow, I'm so, like an Anakin style character from Star Wars. That's how Zero feels in this game. Like, man, I'm so sorry for what is going to happen to you. It's so bad. The technical side of this game, the soundtrack is perfect. There's not a bad song in this game. From the opening introductory song to the closing credit song, every single song in this game is a 10 out of 10 banger with the 32-bit perfection of the quality of the sound chip or whatever you call it. Every single stage is a banger. It doesn't have quite to the same degree of collectibles as like Mega Man and Bass or other games in the series does, but in that sense, this game knows what it is. It's not really trying to be that game. It's trying to be a classic game, a classic Mega Man game, which is not a game so much about collecting things as it is an action platforming game. And from that sense, it's perfect. The Mavericks, the boss designs, incredible. Best. Like, the boss fights, so well balanced. All the weapons so well balanced. The ultimate armor is amazing. The fact that you can have unlimited Nova Strikes, unlimited ammo, the plasma shot that is like this gigantic ball, or if you want to go for a real tactician's way of going through the game, you can have the 4 mini charge shots at a time. The hover boots, just, what can I say? It's just the perfect game. The anime cutscenes, best anime cutscenes. The voice acting is so cheesy, but it's so good. Like, it's a perfect game. There's not a single element of this game that is not perfect to me. And this game is the greatest video game I've ever played. I try to be open to like having other games that I find in the future that I'm like, okay, this game is perfect and maybe you'll surpass it one day. I don't know. If there's another game out there somewhere that could surpass this game, I would love to play it. But this game is just the greatest game of all time. It's just my favorite video game ever made. I would say that if there is a game on this list, like I was saying before, that maybe should be higher on this list that I'm in denial about, it's Zero 3. Zero 3 is also one of the greatest video games I've ever played. But until then, Mega Man and Bass, and really Mega Man X4 and Mega Man X, but really X4 is just the top of the tier. It's a great game. And that for me is my tier list. And yeah, you know what? I have a lot of games in S tier, and I love it because this is my favorite video game series of all time. Love these games. It's hard for me to put these games in anything other than S tier, and I can't put any of these games in D tier or F tier at all. They're all great. And with that being said, that's my tier list. Leave in the comments section, subscribe to my channel, and tell me what your favorite games are. Tell me if you disagree with these games. Tell me if you disagree with some of my opinions, if you agree with some of my opinions, and just, let's get a conversation going. So with that being said, you guys, thanks for hanging in with me there. It was a very long video. Sorry for the really informal quality of this video, but hey, I hope that you enjoy, and I hope that we can have more Blue Bomber Talker discussions in the future. And love you guys, and have a good day.